Welcome back to Coins Numismatic series. If you love coins, if you love history, if you love the thrill of hunting for hidden treasures in plain sight, then you're in the right place. Today's episode is all about the top 3 Monticello Jefferson nickels. 3 coins that at first glance look ordinary, but each one has a story that ties into American history, minting challenges, and collector passion. We'll be looking at the 1964, the 1983 P, and the 1992 P Jefferson nickels, all in fine condition. And as we go through them, you'll see why these 3 coins are so much more than pocket change. 1964 Monticello Jefferson nickel. The 1964 Jefferson nickel. Now this coin, it's one of the most common nickels ever made. But don't let that fool you, because the story behind it is incredible. Let's rewind to the early 1960s. Imagine walking into a grocery store in 1963 or 1964. Coins are disappearing from the cash register. Businesses are struggling to make change. Why? Because people are hoarding coins, especially silver coins. Back then, dimes, quarters, and half dollars were made of 90% silver. And as silver prices climbed, Americans started pulling them out of circulation, convinced that the metal inside would soon be worth more than the coin itself. The U.S. Mint had a problem, a big one. They needed more coins in circulation fast, or the economy would start grinding to a halt. And their solution? Strike as many coins as possible. That's why in 1964, the Mint went all in on the nickel. At Philadelphia, they struck over 1 billion. At Denver, over 1.7 billion. That's 2.8 billion nickels in just 1 year. A staggering number. Now let's look closely at the design. The obverse, Jefferson's profile. Designed by Felix Schlag, who won the design contest back in 1938. Jefferson faces left, his hair tied back. Liberty in script, styled after his own handwriting. The date, 1964, just beside it. And if you've got a Denver coin, there's the D mint mark just beneath the date. If it's missing, that's Philadelphia. Remember, Philadelphia didn't start using the P until 1980. Turn it over, and there's Monticello, Jefferson's Virginia home. Classic, clean lines. E pluribus unum at the top. Monticello right below, then 5 cents and United States of America. But here's the detail collectors look for, the steps. The front steps of Monticello. If you can see every single line clearly, that's called a full steps nickel. And from 1964, those are very, very tough to find. Weak strikes were the norm. That's why collectors pay big money for sharp, full step examples. And here's where the story gets even stranger. Not every 1964 nickel was actually struck in 1964. The Mint froze the date. That means through 1965, and even into early 1966, nickels were still being struck with the date 1964. Why? To discourage hoarding. The Mint hoped that if coins didn't show new dates, people wouldn't bother pulling them out of circulation. So, think about this. The nickel in your hand with a 1964 date. It could have been minted 2 years later. Now, in fine circulated condition, this coin is worth face value. 5 cents. Billions were made. But collectors don't stop there. Mint state coins with full steps are scarce and valuable. And errors, double dies, repunched mint marks, off-center strikes, bring in premiums. But beyond money, the 1964 nickel matters because it was the last year before mint marks disappeared from U.S. coins for several years. The Mint removed mint marks in 1965, hoping it would stop hoarding. For many collectors, especially kids searching through change in the 1960s and 70s, the 1964 nickel was the first old coin they found. And that's why this coin, common but iconic, remains one of the most collected Jefferson nickels ever made. Now we jump forward nearly 20 years. The silver era is long gone. The economy has changed. And the Philadelphia Mint has started doing something it had never done before. Let's take a look at the 1983 P nickel. 1983 P Monticello Jefferson nickel. The 1983 P Jefferson nickel. At first glance, it doesn't look like anything special. But this coin is full of collector challenges. Let's start with the mintage. Just over 561 million were struck at Philadelphia. Plenty, right? But compared to the flood of 1964 nickels, this is a fraction. Now the obverse, Jefferson's portrait still there. But if you look closely beside the date, you'll see something new. The P mint mark. Starting in 1980, Philadelphia finally began using a mint mark. That means the 1983 P nickel is one of the early examples where Philadelphia proudly stamped its P on the coin. Turn it over. There's Monticello again. But here's the issue. Weak strikes. Lots of them. Collectors who search for full steps know just how rare a sharp 1983p can be. Most coins came out soft, with blurry details. Finding one with crisp steps, that's like finding a needle in a haystack. And that's what makes this coin valuable. Not because it's rare in numbers, but because it's rare in condition. In fine circulated shape, the coin is worth 5 cents. Just face value. But in mint state with full steps, a 1983p graded MS66 with full steps can bring hundreds of dollars at auction. Higher grades, even more. Now let's talk errors. 1983 was a heavy production year for all denominations, and the mint's dies took a beating. That led to die cracks, die clashes, even double dies. Variety hunters love searching for these. And if you've got one, you've got something special. The 1983p nickel teaches an important lesson. A coin doesn't have to be scarce in numbers to be scarce in value. Over 500 million were made. But finding one in top condition, with sharp full steps, that's where the true rarity lies. This coin reminds us that condition rarity is just as powerful as mintage rarity. And now, we jump to the 1990s. Technology has improved. The mint is striking coins more consistently, but the Jefferson nickel design, unchanged for decades, is nearing the end of its long journey. Let's take a look at the 1992p nickel. 1992p Monticello Jefferson nickel. The 1992p Jefferson nickel. By the 1990s, America's coinage was well into the modern era. Machines were better. Strikes were stronger. Quality control had improved. And yet, the Jefferson nickel still carried Felix Schlag's original design from 1938. The 1992p had a mintage of over 444 million. Not rare. You can still find them in pocket change today. Look at the obverse. Jefferson facing left. In God we trust to the left. Liberty and the date 1992 to the right. And now, of course, the P mint mark above the date, Philadelphia. Flip it over. Monticello. E pluribus unum above. Monticello beneath. Then, 5 cents, and United States of America. By 1992, the design had become almost too familiar. But that's what makes this coin important. Because less than 15 years later, the Jefferson nickel would finally be redesigned. In 2004, to celebrate the bicentennial of the Lewis and Clark expedition, the mint unveiled new reverse designs. And in 2006, Jefferson's portrait itself was updated. That means the 1992p stands as one of the last of the classic Monticello nickels before everything changed. Value-wise, in fine circulated condition, it's 5 cents. But like the 1983p, condition is everything. Full-step nickels from 1992p are tough. Weak strikes are common. High-grade full-step examples can sell for hundreds. Errors exist too. Double dies. Die cracks. Off-center strikes. Even in the modern era, mistakes slip through. The 1992p is a bridge coin. A bridge between the old and the new. The end of Felix Schlag's era, and the beginning of something modern. And that's why collectors still pay attention to it. So there you have it. 3 Jefferson nickels. The 1964, massive mintages, struck in a time of crisis, and symbolic of the end of one era. The 1983p, a modern coin with mint mark history, condition rarity, and a challenge for collectors. And the 1992p, the final years of the traditional Monticello design, right before the redesign. Each of these coins tells a story of history, a story of minting, a story of collecting. And the next time you see a Jefferson nickel in your pocket change, remember, it might just be more than 5 cents. It might be a piece of America's story. Thanks for watching Coins Numismatic series. If you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure to subscribe, hit the like button, and share this with fellow coin collectors. Until next time, happy collecting.